Hi, welcome back to another book talk. And once again, I'm going to dive into fantasy. This time, it is contemporary fantasy. And contemporary fantasy differs from high fantasy in a subtle way, but in a very noticeable way. I would say that most people are more comfortable with delving into contemporary fantasy. A great example of this is Harry Potter. So these types of fantasies are set in our contemporary world. So you may see a lot of elements of our everyday life with magic mixed in. So it's a lot easier to get acquainted with these kinds of fantasy worlds. So the two books that I'm going to introduce to you today also have a blend of mystery to them. They're a little bit of a genre mashup. Um, but the feel of fantasy is so strong in them. I do feel that they are contemporary fantasy because the books could not stand alone without this element. In addition to that, the mystery, because it is a driving force, I really didn't realize until I paired these two books up that they are also by Indigenous authors from different areas of the world. So, the first book I'm going to introduce to you is written by a brother and sister. They are from Australia, and they are from the Balgu people, and they grew up in the Pilbara region of Australia. So the title of the book, and I do love this cover too. I know, don't judge a book by its cover, but this is a brilliant cover and it makes sense, especially when you read the book. It's called The Things She's Seen. Okay, and it is written by the brother sister combo, Ambelin and Ezekiel Kwaymullina. And the little tagline at the top is Death was only the beginning. Now, this will make sense because when you open it up, it says, Nothing's been the same for Beth Teller since she died. This story is told from three different perspectives. One of the perspectives is told in verse form. So I'll just show you that. And Isabel, who tells it in verse form, is an important character, but she is not one of the protagonists, but she is a very vital and important character in this book. The two people who really stand out in this book are Beth, who I already mentioned, and you already know before we start that she's dead. The second is her father. Her father is a police officer, a sheriff, in fact, actually a detective, and a good one. But he has been broken since Beth's loss. And you find out very quickly that her father is alone. Her mother has passed away years before. And her father are close. And Beth passed away as a teenager. And it is Beth's mother's side of the family that has embraced him. And her family is, and her mother's family is Indigenous. And this is part of the reason why he does not speak to his side of the family and hasn't for years, because of all of the undertones that go along with such a relationship, racism and so forth. But he has shut himself down. He has shut himself down. He is dealing in depression and grief and cannot dig himself out. But here's the catch. He can see Beth. He can see her. And she's not going because she can't go as long as her dad is like this. And so he is sent on a case because his boss feels like, I can't give him like a hard task. I'm trying to help him out. And Beth's thinking, no, give him a hard case, give him something to do, right? But instead he gives him this, what he feels is going to be a simple case, right? An arson case out in the boondocks in the middle of nowhere, right? A place, a very rural place where people who look like Beth aren't seen as real people. Okay. And the arson case happens at what is an orphanage. And there's a body that they can't identify. And the children seem to have gotten out okay. And he's not really focusing, but Beth is there pushing him. Come on, Dad. Come on, Dad. You know something's not right here. Like, you're a good cop. You're a good cop. Something's not right. And there was one witness who was wandering around. Maybe drugged, stoned out. They don't know. She's in the hospital. When she talks, it's in riddles. And that's Isabel, the one who we see poetry from, right? And it seems to kind of go round and round. But there's something special about Isabel. And there is something weird about this fire. In fact, there's something freaking weird about this whole town and this whole setup. And Beth's dad starts to look. And Beth starts encouraging with the right questions. See what they find. See what they see. This is such a brilliant mystery too, because, well, first of all, I live here in the US, so a lot of the stuff that's going on here, is also new to me. But at the same time, it also wasn't new to me, in the sense of some of the injustices that are done, how a lot of times someone who is young doesn't get a voice, especially if you are sort of like considered behaviorally challenged and we're going to put you in a facility. It's also really fascinating, I think, to see in this fantasy world, the idea of why it is only her dad seems to be able to see her and nobody else can. Why is Beth still there, and what are the connections? So definitely a really interesting book. Loved it. I really hope, I know that Ambelin has done other works. I really like what the both of them brought to this book, her and her brother. And I appreciated seeing a different perspective as well, about the treatment of people, just people in general, and how we make certain assumptions based upon what we see. So definitely recommend this really cool contemporary fantasy genre mashup mystery, The Things She's Seen, by Ambelin and Ezekiel Kwaymullina. So the next book that I have to share with you, and I love this cover too. I love this cover. And there's also illustrations in the book as well, that are done by Ravina Kai. It's called Elatsoe. So I'm getting this shine, a glare here. I'll see if there we go. There we go. And it is by Darcie Little Badger. And Darcie Little Badger is from, and let me make sure I get the right tribe, from the Lipan Apache tribe in Texas. This is her debut book. And yeah, I just loved it. So one of the things I love, for example, and it'll make sense in a moment, but there's little illustrations like this at the beginning of each chapter. And the illustrations, and this little guy, this little dog here, interrupts some of the page sections. And what I love is that at the beginning of each of these, the illustrations do relate to what is happening in the story. Maybe not exactly like, oh, there's a man here and that's talked about in this chapter, and so there's a man here. It may not be the exact same geographic setting and place, but they have meaning. And oh, I love that. I love when it makes my brain work. This cover is absolutely beautiful, and I do have to show you this because I like it when there's something special Yeah, I like that when there's something special. It's like I got a secret surprise. So let me tell you about Elatsoe. Elatsoe is the name of our main character, but she goes by Ellie. And this is because sixth great, which is her sixth great grandmother's name, was Elatsoe. And it doesn't come out and say it, but I feel like that's part of the reason she chooses to go by Ellie. Because Elatsoe is not just sixth great, okay, it's like a short way of saying, okay, my sixth great grandmother, but also because she was tremendously great and a woman of magic. As I said, this is contemporary fantasy. And in this world, magic does exist. And more so than in the things she's seen, okay, where we simply know that Beth is has died and her father can see her ghost, her spirit, okay. In this one, magic is heavily induced into the book. And what I love about this is that within her tribe, okay, so within the Lipan Apache, there is how Ellie describes it is that it's not necessarily magic, it's knowing, it's like learning something and being able to do it. They are able to bring back animals, okay, any sort of creature or organism from the dead. Now, they do not do this with people because people do not come back right. So that is not something that they do. And it is Elatsoe, her sixth grade, that is the first one that did it. And what they would do is they would do it to protect when magic was much more freer in the world, to defeat things, ogres, all sorts of the kind of monsters that you may be familiar with, and some you may not be. And so this is what she did. And as you can see with all the dogs here, yes, and even on the back, is that the first Elatsoe, the sixth grade, was known for having this pack of warrior dogs that would assist her. Now, our Elatsoe, Ellie, has her dog Kirby. And Kirby was, if you've ever had a dog that was that dog, that's who Kirby was. And she has brought back Kirby. And Kirby is constantly, she can have Kirby not be there, or Kirby can come and be there. And for the most part, he's with her. And so she, of course, is not on the level of her great grandmother. This takes years and years of skills. But then she finds out that her cousin that she adored, a cousin that is an elementary school teacher who has a baby, was killed. It's hard for me to say this because everything that is written in this book, you feel like you know these characters, and she's devastated. And the thing is too, is that dreams play an important role in her family and community's life. And so he visits her at the moment that he passes. He comes to her. He doesn't know who did it, but he asks her to take care of his family. So she goes along with her father, to pay respects, but she stays there with her mom because they want to investigate. And she's got this great friend, like we're talking like, even though he's like back home still and going to school, like he's doing what he can. He's going on the internet. Because again, a contemporary fantasy. So some of the things we have here in our life are there in her life. And he's looking up because there is something about this town. Do you know what I'm talking about? Have you ever gone through a town and you're just like, I don't know what it is about this town, but y'all are keeping a secret. That's what this town is like. There is something weird and funky about this town where her cousin lived. And so Jay, her friend, her best friend, starts exploring, starts looking. And he's going online and she is doing what she can when she's at home. Well, her cousin's home, right? And she's helping with her mom. Her mom's helping with the baby. But she's doing her own investigative work the way that she knows how with the dead. Now, again, not with people, okay? But she's nosing around. She's getting some attention that's not really good. Because not only is she someone who can use magic, but she's also indigenous. Okay. She's Lippin Apache, and they know she's his cousin. Things start to get hot, people. Things start to get hot. And it is a mystery that is so twisted and so cool. Yeah. And I'm talking like any kind of monster you can imagine, any kind of magic you can imagine, vampires, and just weird spirits, nature spirits, anything goes, because all magic goes in this kind of book. It is really fun. And in the sense of you just don't know what you're going to get. And it's also a very powerful testimony, too, about family, about community, and about how far are you willing to go? How much of yourself are you willing to risk to save the people that you love? And yeah, I guess that's it. How far are you willing to go? And I'm very excited about Darcie Little Badger joining the writing world. I'm excited to see what else is brought to be published. And the illustrations are just lovely, and they do add a really creative and inspiring touch to the book. So, once again, Elatsoe by Darcie Little Badger, illustrations by Rowena Kai. Highly recommend. Contemporary fantasy mixed with mystery. Oh. And then we have the things she's seen. Pardon me, I was changing your title on you. By Ambelin and Ezekiel Kwaymullina. Both of these are available. Elatsoe is still in hardback. This one might be available in paperback now. It takes a little bit longer sometimes to get things in paperback, but I think this one is. Highly recommend. Great contemporary fantasy mixed with mystery. And what's great is, as own voices, as people who are Indigenous, writing about Indigenous characters, you're getting new perspectives. And that is always cool, my friends. So until next time, I wish you happy reading, good health. Thanks.